You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. This week, I am talking to an extremely talented and extremely charming individual. He goes by Spilly Cave on the interwebs and in his band. His real name is Billy Cave, come to find out, which would work equally well. We talked about it a little bit, briefly. Anyway, you're going to like this episode. The dude is a real charmer, an extremely talented composer, a great conversationalist, and an excellent guitar player as well. We had an excellent chat, and I think you are really going to like it. We had an even better chat, though, over on Patreon. If you like to support the show, you like what this is all about, you like the randomness of it all, Patreon is even weirder. We got into all kinds of things, art and cinema and just, of course, aliens. We talk about all kinds of stuff over there. And if you want to get more episodes and access the ad-free feed, that is the place to do it. You just go to patreon.com/tonemob. That's patreon.com/tonemob. And of course, it's in the show notes as well. Head over there and you will be able to get extra bonus episodes beamed right to your ears every week. All right, that's enough business. Let's get into this episode with my new friend, Spilly Cave. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff, occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland. With me today, I have Spilly Cave, who I just found out was actually named Billy Cave. But, you know, everyone knows him as Spilly. So I'm so stoked to have you here. Was introduced to your music through Alex over at Stringjoy. He does our artist stuff. And both Scott, the owner, and I were like, this dude is fantastic. Like, we love your music, man. So I was like, I got to reach out and get him on the podcast.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So let's just start.
Yeah.
Probably the best place to start is what's the Spilly backstory? Like, when did you start playing? When did you pick up guitar? You've obviously been playing for quite a while, so let's get the whole lowdown.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it kind of all, like, I come from, my dad's not a musician. He plays a little guitar. But when I was really young, he was super into like jam bands, like the Dead and Allman Brothers. And I just remember like when I was like 5 years old, I don't know if it was Access TV back then or whatever, but it was one of those sites that always played live concerts. I remember watching like a video of Warren Haynes, like ripping.
I don't know what that was. That just fell into my background. Something fell down.
No worries. Yeah. Occupational hazards, right?
Here. Yeah, gee whiz. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. But I remember watching a video of Warren Haynes when I was a kid. Playing with the Allman Brothers and just him like ripping a solo and just being like a young kid and being like, I don't know what that is or how that anyone does that, but I want to do something like that one day. And I had like a little Squire acoustic. Didn't really like play much at all until I was like 10. And then I got like super into Guitar Hero 2. Just like obsessed with it. And I actually went to like, there's this local library, shout out to the Frederickson's Library in Campbell, Pennsylvania, that I did a competition and did pretty okay with. Got the achievement for like beating one of the creators of Guitar Hero 3 on Through the Fire and Flames by Dragon Force.
Whoa.
And then my like dad was like,
nice.
He was like, dude, you know, it's easier. I think I was playing like a Jane's Addiction song or something on guitar. He was like, you know, that song's like easier on guitar. And so he like showed me it. And I was like, definitely, am I allowed to swear on this? Is that cool? Or no, I can.
If it happens, it happens. You know?
No, okay. No, then I won't. No, it's all chill. Yeah, sorry. So I was about to let it fly. But no, so I was like being a little brat and was like, I don't want to play acoustic guitar, Dad. I want to play electric guitar. So for like Christmas, when I was 10, my parents got me like a starter, like Chinese built, like Kansas starter. You know, there's $150. They come with the guitar and the amp. Sound terrible. The action's like a mile long or like a mile off the fretboard. And their whole thing was like, yeah, we'll get you a guitar, electric guitar, but you have to practice a half an hour a day. and you have to take lessons. And so I got super lucky at this local guitar shop, like my favorite guitar shop of all time, who sadly the owner passed away a few years back. But Triple R Guitar, just right upstairs, there was a dude that was in jazz school at the time named Justin Klauser, who I took lessons from him and from when I was 10 until I was 18.
Wow.
So like really I attribute like basically everything I know about guitar to him. He's a fantastic teacher. And so that, I mean, I like started at 10 and then just I was like, oh, this is my thing. You know, like it really felt, I was so excited by it. And it like, I never had something besides, because like I grew up like playing lots of video games and stuff like that. Wasn't really a sports kid, but I didn't have something that like felt like that could like sustain me for like the rest of my life. And that was like by like, of course it always took a couple of years because the first few years playing guitar, just like wanton madness. Like you don't think you're getting anywhere with anything. But then when things started clicking, like I remember I got down, like I didn't get down the intro this early. When I was like 13, I got down like the chorus riff of Cliffs of Dover. And I was like, oh, okay, this is like become a really big part of my life. And then I'll never forget, like when I was 15, my guitar instructor was like, okay, do you just want to like learn songs on guitar or do you want to like learn how to be a musician? And that was a really amazing turning point because that then him being like a composition expert started teaching me all about music theory and basically like the construction and basis for everything of why I'm playing what I'm playing. And then it was there from then. I mean, I played cello and orchestra in high school. I was in choir, chamber choir, jazz band, basically like just all I did was music. So that's, and then I never stopped. I was like, I got to figure out how to make this my life some way.
Yeah.
Or I'll be pretty miserable.
Dude, I totally understand that. There's all these moments, that kind of compound on one another. And I don't want to say I gave up music. I didn't give up music from a passion standpoint. I still played and was obsessed with everything, but I had totally discarded it as an idea of a career I could have in the industry in any way. I just was like, I knew I didn't like traveling in like cars for a long time. I hated road trips. Right. I didn't really have the desire to play on stage. And so I just thought, if I can't be the person on stage, there's not really a place for me. And since I started doing this and getting into another side of the industry, it's become something of a passion of mine to try to put it out there that there are thousands and thousands of ways to get into music. If you really care about it, there are so many ways you can be a part of a music scene, even if you don't think you can be the person on stage or you're not really into writing or performing. If you really love it, there's so many ways you can be involved. And I just love it. But you got the bug, seems like pretty much from day one. I mean, from Guitar Hero on, which Guitar Hero is this funny through line because I was already playing guitar by the time Guitar Hero came out. Not very well, but I'd been playing for a little while. And just like what your dad said, I think I was playing like I Want to Be Sedated on Guitar Hero, and I sucked at it. I sucked at the game. Like, this is horrible. I can play this song in real life, and I can't play it on the game. Which is, probably the easiest song on Guitar Hero, and maybe one of the easiest songs on guitar too. But that's
pretty true and true. Nice.
Hey, whatever. But so at what point did, like, obviously you do great with your online presence, and you're playing some pretty big shows now, from what the looks of it.
Strangely enough.
When did that start becoming part of what it is? Like, it's one thing to go from like band and orchestra in high school to actually writing and performing with your own band and out there. How did that transition go for you? So it's been a very long journey. So I mean, I'm 26, so I'm not like I'm still relatively young, but feel old. I'm sure I'll look back and be like, wow, you're such a kid now. But so when I was 18, I moved to New York to go to school, to the new school. And I was originally a double major because I didn't know if I was going to be able to cut it as like a musician. I've always vastly underestimated my playing ability. I was like such a sheepish player in high school. I'm like, I suck, I'm terrible. But I ended up going to the new school, was a double major in music comp and philosophy. And then was like, wait, I just want to do music. I was about to transfer into the jazz program and then dropped out because I ran out of money. But anyways, while I was there at the new school, I met I ended up like
getting really, really into writing and composition. I wrote with this girl, Samia, who's doing amazing things now. I played in her band. And I did the thing, like, I thought, like, I was like, I had a small, piece of my brain when I was 18. I was like, I'm going to go to college. I'm just going to study. And then, like, within like 2 months, I still did well in school, but I was like, I was part of 5 bands all of a sudden. And then I was playing shows every weekend. I'm like, and it was a really big moment. I'm like, I don't think I can ever get away with this if I try. Like, it just kept up happening. But anyways, after I dropped out of school, I went through like a long period of just being like I had like really bad anxiety disorder because I moved back to my hometown. I was like working as a bartender at this like hick bar. And I was like, I really thought like it was all over. I was still playing in a local band, but I was like, I don't think this is ever going to be a thing. But was still writing. Like, that's how I started producing in Logic at that point. And was like working on my own record. And then I was like working, I had a bunch of weird odd jobs. I was a temp at the Pennsylvania Dental Association. But a bunch of weird stuff like that, as it goes, and I was just trying to like, you just need a job to, pay the bills. And
Sure.
So then like I got laid off for COVID. And up until this point, I had been like learning Adobe Premiere, had been getting like really like pretty proficient with Logic and mixing for people, had been composing my own stuff. I'd put out one like album that was just kind of like a collection of songs I wanted to get off my hard drive. And then COVID hit and like everyone was talking about TikTok. And I was like, well, I have this great unemployment. Like, I got to figure out how to turn this into something, because I was like incredibly depressed. And I was like, this is either my shot, and if I'm going to give it up my all here and see what happens. And so for about 2 years, I made videos every single day. I made a daily video on TikTok, just of what I was writing at that time. It was almost more like a daily journal, where I was like, it kind of like stuck me to a good schedule of like, okay, I'm going to compose and practice every day, and then people are going to see what I'm working on. And so that ended up kind of ballooning. For a year, I never got over like 1,000 followers. It was just kind of like, I'd have a video with 10 views. I'd have a video with maybe 300 views today. And then I was super consistent. It just started going crazy out of nowhere. I was like, I did one video. I did like a sample challenge that hit like 40K. And then I had some videos hit 100K. And then people started like, after I crested like 10K on TikTok, and it just kept going up and up. And then I started just getting calls from people. And, I ended up, a lot of people reached out that were fans of me, that were like people I was fans of. So yeah. And so that kind of, I was like, well, I got to like kind of filter this momentum in some way into a project. And that's kind of how the album last year came together. Because I was like, well, this would be really cool. This kind of feels like my moment to kind of like really collect all the momentum I've kind of started to curate over the past couple of years into something I'm proud of. And so that record came out, I released independently, and I got so many people reached out to me that I never would have thought. Like, it's just like so strange, dude. And
Like who?
People I'm a huge fan of were just like, I love this, and like, that's super sick. And then that's how the tour came about, because like I started getting all these offers for live shows, and I actually didn't have a band at the moment. I was like just composing and mixing for people and making my own stuff. And so I was like, well, geez, I guess I need like, I always thought it would be like, I'd be like touring forever with a band and then I would get a shot, but it actually kind of went the reverse. Now, luckily I had the experience of playing in bands from since I was like 13. So it wasn't like transferring to that live experience was a pretty effortless kind of thing, because I hired like my brother is my other guitarist, who's awesome. I mean, he's an amazing guitarist. My little brother, he's in jazz school now. And then my drummer Logan, I've been playing with since I was 13, and then my bassist Michael, I've known since I was 15. So, and they're all jazz guys. So like, it's, everyone picks up stuff super easily, and it's not we can, we don't, the whole practicing the songs things, like everyone knows the tunes before we get to practice, which makes everything pretty painless. But yeah, so I actually got a DM. I mean, I don't even like back in this February from this bassist Ash Kabosu, who's from England, and he plays in this band Lovejoy, who is headed by Wilbur Soot, who is a Twitch streamer. And they're like really big in England. They're about to do a big headlining tour. And I had seen his name pop up. I didn't know who the band was at the time, but I knew he had been liking my stuff for about a year now. And I just got a DM that was like, hey, you want to come play a sold out tour with us? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. That
Yeah,
sounds awesome. So yeah, I mean, it was like very, I mean, I don't, there was no agent was involved in that way. It was literally just a DM from him. And then I got his agent's email, and then they're like, yeah, we did 7 dates with them. I mean, all the venues were at least like 15 to 2,000 people. We played the Riverside Theater in Milwaukee, which was like 4,000, and it was just amazing. I mean, it was just like the best experience ever. I mean, their fans are so awesome. We gained so much. I mean, like, it was crazy how much because I've opened for a lot of people in different bands throughout the years, and usually like people are cool to openers if they dig you, but everyone's there for the main event. Whereas like the Lovejoy fans, they were just like so open and accept. They were stoked to see who was ever on the bill. Like the venues were at capacity, like by the time the opener was walking on stage. And so it was amazing, man. I mean, like, so yeah, and that's kind of how that happened. Now we have another, I can't talk about who we're playing for, but we have another big tour booked next year too. And so yeah, so it kind of just all came from TikTok, just from daily video creation. And then also having that background, I was lucky because I've had friends who are just like composers or sound engineers who like kind of shifting into the live show is like kind of a big problem because they're like, I don't know how to do live, or it's just them on the computer, which is cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But coming from a jazz background, I was like, well, I want the live experience to be a natural parallel to what I'm making online. Instead of it being some kind of jarring thing that either feels empty or underprepared, it was like, I think we've had success with the live show because all of us we're already professionals that weren't working, and now we have just a great gig. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Vincent, and I'm here to talk about the Maris Mercury X. My dad's always going on and on about how cool Maris is. He really went off on one about the Mercury X the other day. He said something about a 4,800 hertz sample rate and 99 preset locations and 33 banks, and something along the lines of the most advanced reverb pedal ever devised by man? That's all true, but I only care about one thing. This pedal sounds sick. So make sure you check out the Mercury X and all the other fine products at maris.us, as well as fine retailers worldwide. All right, Dad, now can I have my Pocky?
How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services. And it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. Yeah. How did you keep the motivation for staying consistent with the daily videos? Because I used to do, twice a day stuff on IG back in the day. Yeah. And, TikTok, I have a really hard time because I'm an old head keeping consistent on it all. Although I don't really have a great excuse for that because I should just take some of those IG videos and put them over there. But but I think a lot of creators of whatever genre we're talking about, whether you're trying to push your own music or a gaming channel or anything that you're trying to do on the internet, it's tough to stay consistent, especially in those early days. I think it's a little easier once you've got some traction and you know kind of what to expect. It's way easier to maintain that consistency. How did you keep that going early on for that year when you said like, oh, sometimes I got 10 views? Lots of people are in that boat. How did you push through that?
Yeah, I mean, it was it was a really strange time. So first off, I mean, I joke that my career is government subsidized because of all the COVID payments. So that was first off huge. I mean, like just having the relief to be like, I can just focus on music every day for like a year and a half was such a massive weight off my shoulders. That was like, it got to the point where I was like, well, I'm going to treat this as I'm just a composer. That's my lifestyle. I write every day. If the videos do well, cool. If not, I'm taking this opportunity where the world's shut down to be actually able to be a writer full time, like I've always dreamed of. So, I think it is totally still possible within like a full-time context, but for like for someone that has like anxiety and depression, for me, it was definitely a big part of it was like knowing that if this didn't go well, everything's shut down. Who cares? I just want to write. But I think at the end of the day, even if even like today's climate, it's really important to not lose sight of the music at the forefront. I mean, that's like the biggest thing any advice I give to anyone is just focus on your composition. Any video idea or any kind of like hook idea you have, if the music's not there, it's not going to catch in a way that's like edifying to you, and you're not going to be proud of it in the end of the day anyways, because at the core, like if you're a musician, you should be making great music, and that doesn't have to be great to everyone. If you're like just starting out, you make something that's sick in your house, like that's sick, like that's the most important, like that feeling will like get you through the rest of your life. And so and for me, like that was I was always so focused on like, oh, let's think of video strategies, and let's figure out this new marketing campaign to push out my like record I kind of through in 8 weeks. But it was like, I was like, wait, what if I really, and I had this like, I just had to have a little hope, and it still hasn't, I'm not like, anything crazy right now, but it's just like I had hope in myself that if I really just cared about composition, then people would react to that and like really care about that. Because at my heart, that's everything I live for is composing. Like it's just writing music. And so I hoped if I just like, one thing I've always been good at is I'm like a really fast writer. Like I have a great ear that I've trained over the years, and I can write really fast. I was like, well, I think I can like write and not get burnt out way quicker than a lot of other people. And so that was kind of the big thing. I was like, well, what if I gave someone something new every day? Like every day you're like scrolling on your For You page, you see a Spilly Cave video. It's not going to be someone promoting the same song for 3 months, doing a different dance. I was like, Spilly pops up, you're going to get a fresh musical experience that you haven't. It might only be a minute long, but like, well, it's treating the video format as it's its own medium versus the long format of an album. Like if you want to listen to the album, well, you have that cataloged on Spotify, and if you're a big enough fan of me on TikTok, well, naturally you're going to want to see what his other stuff is, and you're going to see teases of what's on the record in Spotify. But at its core, like I want people to have a fresh experience, and truly treat every video as if like, well, if someone's seeing me for the first time, I don't want someone to pop up, one of my videos and be like, oh, look at this dude, he's just trying to get me to go to Spotify and listen to his music. Like if people enjoy my art, I hope they do that. But totally, like I want people to be like, oh, what's this cool little sound? Like this is interesting and fresh. I hope, that's kind of the goal. So that was keeping that kind of philosophy at the forefront was a massive part of like kind of like keeping kind of burnout kind of off my shoulders and allowing me just to focus on making good music,
Yeah. I will say you touched on something that's I'm sure a lot of people share this opinion, but when it is truly somebody promoting the same song with like a different dance, that's like probably one of my biggest pet peeves in this whole industry right now. I get it. I understand why you're doing it. I understand that it has worked for other people in the past, and I understand that there are people who you may only hit 10% on a good day of your followers. If you're lucky, you'll hit that many just because of the way algorithms are. But at the same time, I think that does lead to fan burnout, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
If I really love a band, I follow them on social media, I don't necessarily want them to be telling me about the same song over and over and over and over and over again.
No,
so it's
no one likes
like
that.
I understand that there's people who haven't heard the song yet. Excuse me, that need to hear it. But at the same time, I think while it's more difficult in a lot of ways, the approach of giving them a fresh experience for the most part with every post. So that's not to say you can't revisit things here and there.
No, I mean, one of my biggest videos for the tune Friendly Fields, that was a video, that was a guitar lick I had written 2 years before and had made a video on. It only got 200 views. And then 2 years later, I wrote a B section and remixed it and then made a new video out of it. And then it hit like 200K. So but even in that standpoint, it wasn't just like the same song. It was a new spin on something and finding a new format through which to kind of like, I don't know, sell the product if you want to be cynical and capitalist about it. But but at the end of the day, it's to show a new experience, you know, or something relatively akin to that.
You do so much writing. Do you ever run into something, I'm sure you have, where like, oh, this is great, but it doesn't really fit the Spilly Cave thing? Or you pretty much adapt whatever you come up with into a Spilly Cave? How does that work for you?
Yeah. I mean, I have like a few, so like I used to worry about that a lot, and I've kind of totally stopped. I think I've garnered a fan base that is just kind of like into what I do. And they like me as a composer. And so I used to kind of feel like, well, I have to have different names for this and do these different projects. I would still like to do that to a certain extent. But kind of nowadays, I've kind of felt like, well, whatever I make, I might as well just put it out under Spilly, because people that appreciate kind of what I kind of like, and similarly, like I'm very inspired by like artists like Beck, and like Paul McCartney's solo work, who kind of like, especially specifically Beck, made kind of whole career on like genre hopping between albums. And it's pretty hard for me to make something that doesn't sound like something Spilly would make. Just because I have such like a specific taste of what I like harmonically and what kind of tonalities I like for my own music. So even when I am kind of crossing into different genres and ideas, it kind of all still kind of feels like it works under Spilly. And if not, I'll like, you know, always just test the waters. I did do a thing last year. I put out a secret Christmas album called Death is Temporary, Hassy is Forever. And I did have an alter ego for that called Chill Bleed. For that was like more of like an electronic hyperpop record. But yeah. So, you know, if it's a fun character, but even that was still, it was like a collab with like Spilly Cave and Chill Bleed, you know, but it was just me.
Right.
So, yeah. just right here. Just me right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
because I've been working on like, I've just been so all over the place with my writing lately. I put out a record a couple years ago that just kind of fell out. I just decided, I publicly said on the podcast, I'm putting out a record by this time. And then I was like, oh, I got to do it now. I just told a lot of people that I'm going to do it. So I did it, and it all was kind of this ambient weird thing. And now I'm going like, which I called it American Cyclops, and got more listens on the podcast than it did on any streaming service, of course, because that's what it is. But I'm now like writing all this stuff, and I'm like, this doesn't sound like an American Cyclops thing. And I'm like, not everything can fit into that weird ambient box you just tried to paint for yourself. So you might just have to go with it. Yeah. Right. So that was kind of encouraging to hear. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it really just depends. I think some people have such like blinders on when it comes to like how people will perceive you. And that's like something I always try to stay away from, is like never care about what anyone would think about what I make ever. And that's like, I try to really keep that core, because I feel like it just festers in your head if you start thinking about that too much. Like once I first started having like viral videos and stuff, I started like kind of feeling that pressure of like, oh, wait, well, people like this one? Are they going to like this sort of thing? And so that's when I'm always like, no, just do what you like. That's why people followed you in the first place. That's why people like it. If you change, then hopefully people change with you, and you bring them all along. If not, you leave some people behind, and that's life. You're an artist, not like, you know, not a business person.
Right. Yeah. Well, and maybe you left some behind, but there's some new people who like the new thing. So that maybe you didn't like the old thing. So you definitely can't please everybody. No. And you definitely can't focus on that too much, or you drain the excitement of actually making anything away. Yeah. So I've just had to kind of roll into it and just be like, whatever, who cares? It's fine.
Absolutely. Because then you become one of those people that like your viewership goes down and then all your videos become about how you don't have the viewership you had before. It's just like, no one likes that, dude. Like
No,
just
no.
just make new cool stuff. Like that's, and if less people like it, that's fine. That's not why we make things. That's not the point. Like the point isn't to get people to know. It's that like you have this fire inside you that you must make because it's the most human thing to do, you know? Like yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's why did I feel a need to like try to figure out a way to make music even tangentially my career? Like, why did I feel that? It's like because I love music.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the big. That's actually like conversations on this podcast are what made me want to do that record because I found myself being like, I got to do another pedal demo. Like, and I love guitar pedals. I love gear. And I found myself going, I don't want to do this pedal demo. And then I was like, why did you get excited about guitar pedals in the first place?
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Because you like music. So how about just don't do demos unless you've committed to them for some reason or another. But like, don't just do demos to do demos. Grab all this cool stuff that you have, throw it on the floor, and plug it in however you want and see what comes out and just go with that. Because that's why you got excited about all these little boxes in the first place. So go make music with it.
For sure.
And it was really, really refreshing to just not worry about what I was using and more just use whatever I wanted, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the key to all of it. You just got to do what you want. And doing what you want will not always be successful, but that's not, I don't know. It's just like
I guess
the whole
it depends
TikTok
on the
thing.
definition of success, right?
Yeah, right.
If you're
like,
happy with it and that's all you're trying to do, then that is successful.
Yeah. And it's just funny to me because it's like, I think a lot of people are so into like the whole fame thing and notoriety thing. And it's just like every person, I know a few famous people. I've seen countless documentaries. Seems like it sucks, dude. And so it's like, why would you ever make that the focus? Like the only reason, like you should always just be focused on the music and what you believe in, because that's going to carry that torch for the rest of your life, you know. Or as the other stuff will fade with time and will all be forgotten. So might as well actually care about what matters. But,
that's right.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that like you don't want to pay attention to your business, because that's the other trap that artists fall into, right?
Yeah, sure.
Where somebody else gets their hands on it, or you're your hands aren't on the wheel firm enough, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, someone else is driving the bus.
Totally.
You're like, hey, where's all my money?
Yeah,
it's not all about the money. That's not what I'm trying to say. But
absolutely. Yeah.
And that's something that I'm also really passionate about, is like making sure that artists are, I think for so many years, especially in the, we've all seen the documentaries and we know exactly what you're talking about. There's so many examples of where the artist wakes up one day and they're like, wait, what do you mean I'm broke? And it's like, well, you signed the contract.
Yeah.
And
right.
I want people to, even though I still hear about this to this day from friends where they're like, oh yeah, I signed this 360 deal and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, you did what?
Yeah.
And they're like, then they don't even realize what they're signing. And I think people need to pay attention to that stuff. It sucks, but it's the necessary part to being able to continue what you want to do for a long time. Sometimes you got to pay taxes. It always sucks, but you got to read the paperwork. So,
totally.
Yeah. Let's talk about your sound a little bit, since this is supposedly a guitar related podcast.
Yeah. Right.
So
allegedly.
Allegedly. It hasn't been that for a very long time. Might have to change the name. But your sound is very distinctive. You love yourself some modulation.
Yes.
Let's go on the gear journey a little bit. And how did you find this particular sound that you've become known for?
Yeah. So I am really obsessed with like Japanese jazz fusion, Japanese city pop. Yellow Magic Orchestra, Harumi Hosono, Masayoshi Takanika. And I've also really always liked, like, specifically McCartney 2, is one of my favorite records of all time. And so that has a lot of the guitar tones and a lot of those tunes have this very warbly tape distorted sound. And so I got this plugin, when I was, it was probably like, I think I saw an ad for it on TikTok or something. It's called Sketch Cassette. It's like $20, and it just has my favorite tape warble of all time. So I run all of my guitar chains through that. It's a pretty simple tone. I think people are always pretty perplexed by it because I crank it so much. People are like, what is that? I also quad track most of my guitars too. And then EQ them into like one really thick guitar sound. So a lot of it is that too. But then, wait, do I have it around here? Oh, wait, let me get this real quick.
Okay.
Shout out to Alex again for hooking me up with Earthquaker devices.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
For the live experience, I use this Aqueduct by Earthquaker, which is it's basically Sketch Cassette. It's the best. I mean, it just literally is just that tape warble. I'm not a huge gearhead. I'm on the album, everything's software. So really mainly all I use is the overdrive on my Fender Deluxe Reverb and this live. It's pretty simple setup.
That's awesome. Nice.
Yeah. I you know what's funny is like a lot of we played a show out in LA last year and someone's like, oh, I love your pared down setup. That's so retro. And it's like, honestly, it's just abject laziness. It's like, for me, it's funny. Like I tinker away so much on the record, and I really love that side of it. Like really getting down into the minutia of all of the different technical aspects of the tonalities of the guitars and how they're mixed and all the change to that. But when it comes to the live experience, I really just want to walk up, plug in, and play. I really don't want to think a lot. I think coming from like the jazz and funk background, it really is like, like we should be filling up. If the composition is good enough, I should be filling up every kind of like little sonic box between the four of us and shouldn't need too much on the top end there. But yeah, so that's where that came from. Kind of like 70s jazz fusion from Japan was the biggest influence for the guitar tone, and then kind of cranking that tape warble. I think it's the flutter on Sketch Cassette 2. And then it has great saturation too. But yeah, that's kind of the key of it. I really like SSL's Solid State Logic. Their EQ rack, I run all of my guitars through that EQ, and then funnily enough, I used to only use it on vocals, but I really like the Waves CLA, the CL2A for a guitar chain. I've been actually really enjoying the way it kind of squashes everything down for some reason. But yeah, so that's kind of the key, the core of the guitar tone.
Nice. When you talk about quad tracking, are you playing one track and just duplicating it, or are you actually playing 4 different tracks?
Oh, I always play it. 4 different times. Yeah.
4 different times,
always. Yeah. Just, it's funny. I mean, you can, copy and paste and eliminate the phase, but I think a lot of the girthiness of the sound of my guitar tracks comes from really playing it every time. And also it just makes me better. Funnily enough, it just makes me get down the parts better too. Because
true,
you just have to get everything perfect multiple times. Like every solo I do, I'm like, okay, we have to do it again.
Oh man,
yeah, time to do it again. So if I write something like really blistering, I'm like, okay, I got it once. And it's always, it's fun because I'm like, well, if you can do it once, you should be able to do it twice. And if you can't do it twice, then you probably don't know how to do it. So
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of just sometimes just copying and pasting. In fact, I do it all the time. Yeah. But there is some magic. I hate to call it magic, but there is something to actually playing it again. And even though you can be as perfect as humanly possible, there's always some slight variation in how you pick. There's always some tiny little variant that you may not even be able to detect if you were A-Bing them side by side.
Totally.
But it's those little variances that make multi-tracking the same instrument, the same part. Yeah. That's what makes a lot of the magic sometimes. That's where some fatness really comes out. And I don't know that that's explored as much as it should be this day and age. I think a lot of people are copying and pasting like me.
Yeah, no, I always play everything multiple times. I mean, for all the instruments, obviously bass, I only ever need one. For the most part, I've had a few songs with like 3 bass tracks, but I always play everything twice. I just like the way it sounds. It's just like, it's such an immediately gratifying thing. Cause I do like a hard left and right pan for a lot of my guitars too, just to build out that like really wide stereo guitar sound. And just playing it twice with that, like, right and left pan all running through the tape emulator. It's just like, I don't know. It's just like, I think it's funny. I had I always get funny comments about my guitar tone because they're like, it's so weird and quirky. And I just think it sounds good. Like, it's just what sounds good to me. There's been no intention of quirk. But if that's cool, I mean, if it is weird and quirky, that's sick. But I just love the way it sounds. It's like, at the moment I found, I'm like, oh, that's the guitar tone. That's what I've always wanted. So
That's the sound. Yeah.
it's the tune. That's the sound I've always wanted. So I love it. It's just it makes me want to keep playing guitar. So
Talk to me about that Ibanez that you're playing. You've
Ah.
had that forever, right?
it is. Funnily enough, not an Ibanez. It's not a PRS.
It's not?
No, it's not. It's
I
a
thought
Frankenstein.
it's not an Ibanez? Oh my
it's a
goodness.
Frankenstein guitar. I have it right here.
Oh, there it is. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So I have the Luthier's sticker posted over the logo, but it was a Schecter C1 Classic from like 2004 that I loved. I mean, this is my favorite feeling playing guitar of all time. Like, it's just, I've had this since I was 14 or 13, and I loved it. Sounded terrible. Sorry Schecter, but the way it was stock was pretty awful. It was not a great sounding guitar. But I loved the way it felt so much. So when I was 18, my one buddy, Derek Hefner, was going to school to become a luthier, and he needed projects to do. And I was like, hey, man, I have this guitar that is my favorite playing thing of all time. Every time I pick it up, I'm like, this is the guitar I want to use. But then it just sounds like... So he gutted it, built all custom electronics, custom wound pickups, inserted a coil tap into it. And that's the guitar then. Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah. So
Very
it's kind of
nice.
like a Frankenstein Schecter thing. And so it kind of has it kind of sounds like one of like the Super Strat Super Strat Ibanez's they have, which actually I would like one of those eventually. Or kind of similar to a PRS, but it's got a little more girth. But yeah, I love this thing, man.
Yeah. So how many people get that guitar confused for something else? Because you immediately like, it's not a PRS.
I think 100%. Yeah.
I thought it was an Ibanez this whole time. I can't believe it.
I've had like one comment on TikTok that was like some dude being like C1 Classic. I was like, nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it. Yeah.
I had one. I've always actually had a soft spot in my heart for Schecters, which funny enough, because I remember I thought I was going to get a Schecter for my first electric. My dad surprised me with it was a graduation present. So I got one of those Les Paul Fadeds instead. So like my face, when I was kind of expecting a Schecter, which I would have loved, and I opened the case and there was this Les Paul there. Like I've posted it on Instagram a couple times, but like this face of just pure joy and excitement that I don't know has been replicated until I had kids, probably.
That's awesome.
Like,
yeah, it rules.
But Schecter, I've always had a soft spot for them. But I've always leaned towards their like more metal ones. I remember really lusting after the Damien. And I wish I could remember them.
Damien. Yeah, I remember looking at the web pages of that, dude. I used to scroll Schecter hard in middle school.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, they got the bat inlays, which I was like,
dude.
yeah,
so badass.
I like that. I still would like one of those. Actually, the more I talk about it, the cooler it sounds.
Yeah.
But then I took a guy who he knew I played guitar, and he really wanted to learn. And he's like, I don't want to get a terrible guitar for my first guitar. I want to get something decent. I have a little bit of money. Like, let's go to Guitar Center and pick one out. And I ended up helping him pick a Schecter because it was like the best bang for the buck that it had by like far at that store at the time. So I have like this really weird, like, I never did close the deal on buying a Schecter, but every time I'm like, I really want a Schecter. So it's funny. It's rounded the corner again.
Oh yeah,
like,
full circle.
I gotta get a Schecter.
Yeah, I also like playing it in videos too because like I feel like everyone nowadays is playing like especially in like the indie and like kind of like jazz, like not jazz, but like in the indie-ish jazz inspired indie stuff. Everyone's playing Fenders right now, which I have a Strat. And I love my Strat. It's a great guitar. But I just like the idea of one of my videos popping up and they're like, is this like some kind of shredder? And then he just plays like warbly indie jazz. So it's just I like it. It's a fun. I love that. Everyone's always like, "What's that guitar?" It's fun.
There is something about that guitar because when Alex was like, "Hey, we're gonna send this dude some stuff," I was like, I don't know who that is. Let me investigate. And I was like, "Oh, this guy's about to shred my face off right now."
Yeah, right, exactly.
And I was prepared. I was ready, and I was like, "Well, he didn't. I mean, he does eventually shred my face off, just in a." In a much nicer way than I was expecting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a friendly shred.
Yeah. It's more of a gentle tug, you know.
Yeah, right.
Eventually, the skin loosens up over time, you know.
Yeah, totally.
So, you mentioned earlier, and if you can't talk about it or aren't comfortable, totally feel free to pass on the question. But you mentioned that some people hit you up that you were personally a big fan of, and you didn't expect. Like, who were some of those artists or people?
Yeah. I mean, like Corey Wong followed me, started like my
incredible
stuff, which is crazy. Yeah, I mean, Lewis Cole is one of my favorite. He's been a big inspiration for me, and he reached out. We ended up, becoming buds, and so that was, a huge honor that he liked my music. Just as it turns out he's a great guy too, and really chill dude, and yeah. So those were kind of the biggest two as far as spheres that I was influenced by. And then lots of weird random people too. The Lovejoy guys, the Jonas Brothers band. Yeah, I'm trying to. I mean, a bunch of like LA people, and they all think I'm in LA, which is really funny. Everyone always thinks I live in LA. Everyone out there like, oh, your indie stuff has such LA vibes, but no, I'm from Central Pennsylvania. Yeah. So, but yeah, those are the main ones, and yeah, it's been cool to like connect with people like that. A bunch also like just really cool artists, like this animator Chris Rutledge, who him and I have become real good friends. He does a bunch of work for like Adult Swim and stuff.
Nice.
And so that was like, I mean, just someone that was like a great connection. It's been cool to make friends through putting out music online. I never thought that would be a thing I did. So yeah, totally.
We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby, because let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Goodhertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblissaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
It's amazing what can happen when you start putting stuff out over time. Yeah. I've gotten really lucky to have done interviews and got to meet some of my musical heroes. And I've said this before, they say don't meet your heroes.
Yeah.
But so far, my batting average has been really great. Like, they've all been super cool people that I'm like, oh, well, I like you even more. I'm a bigger fan now because now I know you're also just as cool as I hoped you would be.
Yeah.
So,
right. Yeah.
I haven't ran into too much diva action yet.
I haven't at all. I don't think I make the music for it. I haven't met, if someone is making music, like the kind of music I'm into, if you have that diva attitude, it's kind of game over. It's like not the least cool thing you could possibly do.
It really is.
Yeah. But
I think no matter what you're making, it's the least cool thing you could possibly do.
Yeah, of course.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But I also think that's one of the the internet's got a lot of problems, right? Let's not sugarcoat it. It's got some ugly sides, but one of the really good things about it is think people can kind of get away with less of that.
Yeah.
People will find out. People, your vibe ends up getting out there. Don't get me wrong. Some people are just terrible and they don't
Yeah.
care. But generally speaking, you got to be cool. You got to be cool to hang out with. You got to be a person that people want to be around. And if you're not, people will find out faster, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, nothing has more mileage in life than just being nice to people. It's like, for all aspects of life, just having, even just from this, the selfish idea of wanting to have a good life yourself, it's good to be kind. And I don't know. I think people, sometimes don't realize, because there is so much like festering weird business stuff. But when it comes to the artists, for the most part, everyone's pretty chill of people I've met. But also I kind of like steer clear. Like I've definitely run into some weirdos at parties in LA who are like just clout chasers. But then you just don't hang out with them. It's super easy. It's like, that's the easiest thing in the world. So you're like, yeah, no.
Yeah,
cool.
no thanks.
Yeah. I also spend most of my time at home, and I don't really do. I mean, I write so much, dude. Like I don't really have any time for the social scene of music whatsoever. So it's like, if there are any people that are like weirdos, I'm like, well, I'm just not. It's very easy just to not spend any time with them. Same thing with people online too, where like, I don't know, I think some people see all like the comments and the interactions as like real things, but these are all like, algorithmically based programs that are run by megacorps. So it's like, what's the point of like, if anyone says something to me on the internet, like, you should not care at all. It has no connection to any basis of the reality of a human interaction, and so it's like, and so that's where it's like, foster your community of people you enjoy and who are good people, and be kind, and that's like so important.
It's one of those weird things too, where I think it is important to reply to, you don't have to reply to every single comment, and I used to do that a lot more, but I do think it's important to engage with people. I have a text line open on this podcast where people can like text this phone number.
Cool.
And a lot of people think that, initially when I rolled it out, people were like, is this going to be like a big text marketing thing where you just tell me about episodes? Like, no, dude, it's just me. It's just a way you can contact me. It's not my like phone number, my personal cell phone.
Yeah, you're not trying to dox yourself.
Yeah. But it's literally me just replying to all those text messages, because a lot of people that listen to this show I'm surprised still, like, they don't have social media.
Right.
Or they very rarely go on it, and they just happen to like the podcasts and they want to talk about fuzz pedals. And I'm like, that's cool. Yeah. You shouldn't have to have Facebook in order, or Discord or any of that stuff in order to do that. As long as I have the capacity to be there. I enjoy engaging with people who actually like what I'm doing.
Oh,
that
me
said,
too.
like hater comments bother me less and less and less. In fact, they're starting to be comical now.
Oh, they're so funny. They're the best, dude. I wish I had more haters, honestly. Yeah. No, I mean, people that are reaching out in like earnestness, who are like either just fans or have questions, I always try to do my best to answer, because I always like, my biggest thing, not just as like a guitarist, but I also would like to help, like I think making music is the most wonderful, beautiful, and foundational path you could ever kind of like choose to do in life. For everyone's different, but for myself, so if I ever inspired anyone else to kind of like take up this gauntlet and keep the for lack of better words, keep the flame going of like people that enjoy composing, and if I could help other people want to do that, I'll always respond to people in that way and try to give advice, because it is just such an edifying pursuit, and there isn't really anything more magical than like writing a tune that you're proud of. So
that feeling when it hits too, when you're like, oh, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. It makes all of the, that one wasn't good. That one didn't. Like when you get that one, it makes it all worth it. And I think, having other people be able to experience that too, from music or something you post or something you say is pretty incredible. And it's another one of the good things about, social media and the internet, is that people like you and I are able to have these conversations. We met through the internet, and we were able to get out there. Whereas I make an argument sometimes that I could see some pushback on, but that I don't think, it's always been hard to make a living as an artist.
Oh, totally.
but you've never been able to do it from your bedroom the way you can do now. Like
Well,
potentially.
also get to make exactly what you want. Like for me, like the book stops like at that like the door over there. That's like everything's filtered through that door. Like everything is made right here, and I do it exactly how I want it. And when something goes out, it's all me. There's no one else to blame. I really appreciate that part of it. Obviously, you know, all of the algorithmically driven ad revenue based social media companies that their numbers are kind of fishy. I mean, that stuff's weird. But you know, I mean, maybe I don't feel it's that much worse than like all the big cigar chomping, you know,
Right.
execs that were like, you know, harassing people in the 70s. So I don't know. It's always going to be in whatever, you know, specifically any kind of American system, it's always going to be difficult to justify your existence on the marketplace as an artist. But I think having the autonomy that like someone like myself has is incredible. I mean, I'm just so happy. Like the fact that I can make whole records right in this room and kind of build my own business completely independently is like my favorite thing ever. Like that rules. And I don't have to like show someone mixes and then be like, change this. Oh, no one will like this song. It's like, no, if I think it's cool, it's going out there, you know? And that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's slowly made me more and more unemployable with every passing year. Is the having the freedom to be able to just do whatever and put out whatever. Wow, I'm becoming very unemployable.
Great. Sweet. That's sick. You'll probably make sick stuff.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This whole experience has been mind blowing to say the least. Coming from my background, but so we're creeping up on the end of the main episode of the podcast, and slide over to Patreon and get like really weird with it. But before I ask you the final questions of the episode, I like to give the guest the opportunity to take the stage, talking to a couple thousand people right now. You know, you can shout out anybody you want to shout out. You can say hi to your grandma. You can do whatever you want to do. Like the floor is yours.
Great. Let's see. Well, first shout out to my grandma. She rules. I'm actually in her house right now. I rent from her.
Nice.
So, she's awesome. She lives in Oregon. She found a sweetheart out in Oregon. She's living out there now.
It's not hello, me. Grandma. I'm in Oregon, but it's not me.
Oh yeah, I'm in Oregon. So yeah, shout out to Justin Klauser, Rod Gels, Randall Robertson, basically all the people that taught me music and stuff. So, you know, Triple R Guitar, Randall Robertson. Justin Klauser runs a music school in Pennsylvania called The Perfect Fifth. If you want guitar lessons, he's, you know, one of the best teachers you could ever ask for. If you like my guitar playing, you will like his guitar playing.
Nice.
Rod Gels also runs a music school out of Pennsylvania, and he kind of taught me how to play live, and like live improvisational funk and jazz. Great guy. And shout out to and to I don't know. I'm trying to think. My parents, the people. Everyone,
everybody, anybody, everybody, whatever. It's all good. Well, and I would just add to that, like, please go make sure you check out his music because it's very, very good. And I'll have the links to wherever you want me to put the links down in the show notes of this podcast. So we'll talk about that off air. Yeah. But where would you like people to go? Like, where can people find you?
Yeah, Spotify, Bandcamp, Deezer. Apple Music,
Deezer,
YouTube, Instagram, everywhere. If you type in Spilly Cave, I pop up, and whatever place fits you best, you can check me out there. You know, I always I think sometimes people are like, please buy my music on Bandcamp, but it's like, you know, I don't know, just wherever you find me, whatever platform you like the best. If you like the tunes, you like the tunes, and that's good enough for me.
There you go. That works. That's beautiful. All right. First question. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
Boss pedal. I've never owned a Boss pedal.
I think this is a first. That's a first on the podcast. You've never.
I've only owned 4 pedals.
Well, what are those?
First I got a wah, and I forget what it was. I think it was Dunlop wah.
Probably Dunlop, most likely.
And then it was also a slash boost. And then I also had this overdrive pedal that was from a local manufacturer, like local pedal creator in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And then I had a phaser by that same guy. And then I had the 1980 fuzz pedal. I forget by who. Oh, and then I have the Aqueduct And then I also have the Earthquaker chorus pedal, the C Dream or something like that. It's amazing.
Nice.
But that's I'm so software, dude. Like,
this is generational divide. I think I'm not that much older than you, but yeah. I'm like never had a boss pedal.
No,
we'll have to fix that. I'm gonna do what I can.
Oh, I also had an Ibanez Tube Screamer inspired, the green one by that Trey Anastasio uses that I had in high school.
Okay,
so more than 4. Like
at least you've had one of like the classic.
Yeah.
All right. We'll give you a pass. So we're just gonna put you down as the TU2 because you probably like being in tune. I'm just gonna make that your favorite boss pedal.
Sick.
That's the first time. Wow, that's crazy. 370 something episodes. Nobody's ever said they've not had a boss pedal. That's crazy.
People always make fun of me online. I get so many DMs that are like, what's your gear? I'm like, dude, I'm not the gearhead. I'm so sorry. I'm like I am the wrong guitarist to follow if you're trying to find a gearhead. The amount of times I've walked on a stage not knowing what amp is there, and I'm like, well, this is what we're playing tonight.
Hey, you make it work, and that's even more beautiful in a lot of ways.
Oh,
so that's great. All right, now that we've got through that. Now I'm just gonna brace myself here for this next one because I don't want to be hearing what I just heard for this next question.
Yeah.
What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh, pizza. You just gotta go. Actually, I really like the. So I forget what it's called. There's a local pizza shop that had this one called the Honey Badger. And it was like a pepperoni pizza, but it had honey oil on it.
Yeah.
It was like spicy pepperonis with honey oil. That's my favorite.
I love that. That's so good.
So good.
Was that like a thinner crust, a thicker crust? Like
it was like the real thin, like personal size, kind of like the brick oven style pizza is probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That hits the spot. Yeah, I found that in New York. That we went to Roberta's and got the beef steak. And similar things, spicy oil or spicy pepperonis and some peppers and stuff, and then that hot honey on there. Just
you can't beat it.
I was skeptical. I'll admit it. I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, right.
It's so good, incredibly good. So yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much for hanging out, and we'll maybe take a little pause here and see what kind of nonsense we can get into on Patreon. Does that work?
Cool, sick. Thanks, Blake. Yeah, great to talk to you.
Really good talking to you. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, everybody. For Spilly, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. There you have it, folks. There's another episode in the can. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. And if you did, as I hinted at in the beginning, you're going to enjoy the Patreon conversation even more. We get really weird over there. We get into a lot of our favorite things, including weird movies and things. That's just as you listeners know, that's a passion of mine as well. And, well, we chop it up. And if you want all of those episodes, you just got to go to patreon.com/tonemob, where for $5 a month, you will get access to all of that stuff. I appreciate everybody who supports the show. Thank you very much. I've got a lot more content coming your way. I've got some songs I'm working on. I got all kinds of projects. It's a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it's all groovy. All right, folks, thank you very much. I will talk to you on the internet very, very soon. Bye-bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately, and if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gunstreet as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gunstreet harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.
Hi, this is Paul Phelps.
And this is Monica Strutt.
And we're from the Daily Music Business Podcast. We're joined by a number of other really great hosts in creating daily content with great advice for independent musicians just like you.
That's right. We put out episodes daily on all topics from music marketing to branding, advice on signing with a manager and label, and anything else you need to up-level the business side of your music career. We've got it covered.
Subscribe to the Daily Music Business Podcast today on your favorite podcast catcher.
Subscribe today to the Daily Music Business Podcast on your favorite podcast platform.
Hey, this is Scott from Fly on the Call. Each week I speak to a different musician, whether they're in an established band like Silverstein or the Wonder Years, or a band on the rise like Spanish Love Songs, Origami Angel, or Meet Me at the Altar. We discuss music and lyrics, the successes and challenges of being in a band, and more, as we get to the core of each artist. The show features musicians of diverse genres and backgrounds, so there's always a chance I'll be talking to your new favorite band. Listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com.